Thanks, Ken Corla. Earlier on, Taoiseach, you appeared to suggest that saying that the government should do more to protect families from the cost of living crisis was repeating Russian propaganda. I thought it was quite incredible cynicism, to be honest. It was strongly suggested that in saying that the government should do more, or saying the government...
You can't mislead. That's not true.
Well, people can go back and watch the transcripts.
It's just classic spin by you.
That's fine. Look, go back.
It's classic politicking by you.
Go back. People can read the transcripts between yourself and Deputy Doherty. Ask you a question. Is it Russian propaganda to point out the fact that the top oil and gas companies in the world together made total profits of almost $100 billion in the first quarter of 2022? And how does that compare to last year? It is almost a doubling of profits. So to point out the fact, as Richard has done also in this country, that they are taking advantage of supply shortages to jack up prices and to make record profits from the pain of ordinary people. The energy companies and the electricity companies in this country, who are BP, Shell...
No, they're not drilling here.
You look at their profits, they've doubled, Taoiseach. They have doubled.
We're running out of time.
But the point is, so even, as Richard has made the point, even the Tory government, even the ESB, Energia, Airtricity, every single electricity company in this country has increased their prices and increased their profits.
Thank you,
but the question is whether you will accept, we have an answer back from the PQ that a 50% windfall tax would raise €300 million. If the Tory government can do it, even with some horrific loopholes, why can't we have a windfall tax on these super profits?
With Taoiseach, please. We've just over 5 minutes.
Raised the issue around the level of commitment in terms of Northern Ireland, in terms of my good self. I appreciate your kind comments, and in respect of the UK Prime Minister, I think both of us agree with the necessity to convene the Assembly and the Executive and to get it formed. That said, my view is that the decision of the UK Government in terms of the unilateral, the intention to introduce unilaterally legislation to circumvent the protocol is undermining stability, political stability in Northern Ireland, and is not conducive to getting a resolution of issues around the operation of the protocol. And there are aspects of the operations of the protocol that the European Union has signalled that they're interested in discussing with the United Kingdom government. And one gets the sense that domestic considerations are uppermost in terms of the EU government's assessment of all of this, and very difficult to get a clear landing zone from the UK government, or indeed for the UK government to involve itself intensively with the European Union to get an outcome. I believe these issues can be resolved, just like medicines was resolved last year. And the initiatives that Maros Sefcovic put forward last October, in my view, formed the basis for a decent round of negotiations to follow. And what we got from Lord Frost was an attempt to torpedo that by invoking the European Court of Justice, which was not a concern to unionism at the time at all, if the truth be told. Unionism is concerned about movement and transit of goods from the UK to Northern Ireland. And I think those issues are important, and we believe they can be resolved. I met with the Brexit Business Working Group, just for other deputies as well, and to make the point that they've done a lot of research. Manufacturing is doing very well in Northern Ireland, and the protocol benefits manufacturing. The protocol benefits the dairy industry. The protocol benefits the meat industry. And in their most recent survey, 65% of companies were managing the protocol well. About 8% in the survey said they were experiencing significant difficulties, mainly consumer-facing companies or consumer-facing goods and so on like that. I think we do need to work on that 8% and make it more operable, and I believe we can do that. And we need to get the technocrats and the business people into the room as well, because they know what works and what doesn't work, and what's practical and what's not practical. And I picked that up from my meeting with the Brexit Business Working Group. Deputy Batchik, I think, raised similar issues to Deputy Richmond. I'd follow up on the case of the little baby in terms of Crumlin, and I certainly would follow that up with the Minister. We have to do everything we possibly can that children don't be waiting, shouldn't have to wait that long for treatment and attention and intervention. You're correct in saying the bread and butter issues are what dominated the election in the North, and the people of Northern Ireland, I think, will be very frustrated at the failure to convene a parliament or an assembly. And I said when I visited the parties, I said a very basic truth. In the democratic world, when people vote through the ballot box and elect their representatives, they expect a parliament to be formed. It's natural in a democracy. And I think the voice of the people must be heard in Northern Ireland, and the Assembly should be convened forthwith. Speaker should be appointed, and then subsequently the Executive should be established. Deputy O'Snoddy, yes, the British Prime Minister, to be fair, is very well apprised of the need for the functioning executive and committed to that. On the legacy issue, we've had a long-standing disagreement with the British Government in respect of its initiative on that front. Minister Coveney, in terms of the British-Irish Intergovernmental Council, with the political parties in Northern Ireland, have been arguing that. We do not accept the proposition that's been put forward by the British Government because, in our view, it's fundamentally against the wishes of the victims of families and would give many perpetrators of the most horrendous atrocities and crimes essentially an amnesty. I'm not just talking about those within state forces, but paramilitary groupings and people who committed terrible atrocities could essentially avoid any accountability or prospects of persecution. In relation to a windfall tax, could I in the first instance say that deputies opposite, and just make the point that I take strong exception to what Deputy Murphy said, because what I said this morning is the Russian ambassador is blaming Western governments, and he is, and the Putin operation is on full operation propaganda-wise in terms of blaming Western governments for the 40-odd% increase in energy costs that Deputy Boyd Barrett referenced. Russia is responsible in terms of what's going on in the energy crisis, fundamentally responsible. Its war in Ukraine needs to be called out again and again and again, and I note the two deputies did not call it out in respect of the issue, and because it is without question a key factor. But I would make the point to you that on the windfall tax, the ESB is a state company, for example. We already get a dividend from the ESB. Other wind energy companies, we don't want to tax wind energy companies. Why? Because we want to move as fast as we possibly can to secure our independence and to secure energy security.
All right, thank you, Taoiseach. We're going to have to move on. I'm sorry.
Wind energy companies to invest.
We are out of time.
With total focus in relation to that. Other areas can be looked at in the fullest of time, but in Ireland we're not similar to the UK.
We are out of time and we need to move to question 11.
We don't have too many native fossil fuel companies in this country, and well you know it. But in fact, I don't believe we should tax Bord na Móna, and I don't believe we should tax DSB as you've advocated.
Question 11, please.
We get a dividend every year, and that makes sense.